Tonight, PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar picks Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as his running mate in the 2023 general elections. Preparations in top gear for Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State. INEC distributes sensitive materials to the 16 local government areas of the state. And circumvent the electoral process and be dealt with according to law. Chief of Defense Staff warns politicians ahead of the 2023 general elections.
On business news tonight, National Pension Commission announces the commencement of digital verification for retirees and prospective retirees.
On sports news tonight, reigning champions Manchester City FC will begin the defense of their Premier League title at West Ham on the opening day in fixtures for the 2022-23 season released today.
And from Abuja, the president urges more deployment of technology by the Nigerian police as it challenges the force to prioritize professionalism in the discharge of its duties.
And in international news from London, the leaders of France, Germany and Italy have arrived in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, for talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Politics leads our bulletin tonight as the People's Democratic Party appears set for next year's election. It's crossed yet another hurdle today after the presidential candidate of the party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, picked the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, as his running mate. The PDP vice presidential candidate who's just been chosen was among the 3 names submitted by the 17-man committee and was set up by the PDP National Working Committee on Tuesday to select a running mate for the party's presidential candidate. Mr. Abubakar announced Governor Okowa as his running mate, citing experience as a former legislator and a serving governor.
It's another decision-making day at the National Secretariat of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, as the 2023 presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is set to present his running mate to the leadership of the party. However, before he does that, the national chairman of the party makes some clarifications regarding the processes that culminated in the submission of 3 prospective running mates for the presidential candidate.
The committee recommended 3 names to us, and we transmitted those 3 names to the candidates. Contrary to all the speculations in the social media, the National Working Committee or the party didn't select one name for the candidate.
It's time for the PDP presidential candidate to unveil his running mate to the party, and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar mounts the podium, listing the qualification he considered before coming to a decision on his running mate.
In arriving at the decision, I held wild consultations with various stakeholders in our party. In these consultations, I made clear that my running mate would have the potential to succeed me at a moment's notice. That is a president in waiting.
Mr. Abubakar then proceeds to announce his running mate.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the ticket the next Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Governor Ifeanyi Arthur Okowa.
In his acceptance remarks, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State pledges loyalty to the cause of the party to win the 2023 presidential election.
There is no doubt that there is a great work ahead of each and every one of us. The build-back process is going to be collective. And we are trusting that all our party members will want to be part of that story at the end of the day.
Having selected a presidential running mate, the People's Democratic Party, its presidential candidate, and the running mate now have the onerous task of uniting and mobilizing all their resources for the general elections in 2023.
Meanwhile, the PDP's Governors Forum has congratulated its colleague and Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, on his emergence as the vice presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 general elections. In a statement, the Forum says Governor Okowa has distinguished himself as Governor of Delta State and has legislative experience as a former senator, which will position him as an effective vice president of Nigeria. According to the Forum, the great task of recovering, rescuing and rebuilding Nigeria begins with the Atiku Okowa ticket, which the APC has completely destroyed. Well, ahead of Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has commenced distribution of sensitive materials to the 16 local government areas across the state. A visit to the Commission's headquarters in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, showed preparations in top gear, with security operatives consisting of the military, police and paramilitary, ensuring the materials are dispatched to the various destinations without any hitches.
Properly labeled sensitive materials being sorted at INEC state headquarters for onward distribution across all the local government areas of Ekiti State in preparation for Saturday's governorship election. The exercise is done under the watchful eyes of all stakeholders, including security agencies and members of civil society organizations. Some of the materials being distributed include ballot papers, result sheets, booklets, and various categories of forms, as party agents also witnessed the dispatch to ensure transparency of the process.
This is a process that is being clear, but in the course of the process, here I am witnessing the process that is good, but I'm concerned about the security operatives. The materials is being expected by me and every other, but as it's being satisfied with me, how could it be secure to every local government?
As you can see, even the ballot papers, the colors from one area to the other, they are different. That means you cannot manipulate, you cannot quickly generate.
So far, INEC has demonstrated capacity in terms of unbiasedness, in terms of the distribution of materials. You see, when they do not get it right, in terms of distribution of materials, it impairs negatively on the election itself.
The Ekiti State governorship election is the first off-cycle election this year and is expected to set the tone for the Osun governorship poll and the 2023 general elections.
Let's get the latest now on preparations ahead of Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State. Our political editor, Seun Okimaloye, is standing by to give us a live update. Seun, what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Thank you so much, Amarachi. Welcome to Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti State capital, where a lot of hustling and bustling has been going on. There's seen a lot of last-minute activities, especially as it concerns politicians and the different political parties who are participating in this very important election to the people of Ekiti State. Today marks the last day of campaign. Politicians have been out for the last few weeks campaigning to the people of the state, but they will now leave everything to the people to decide their fate. All of the candidates will now be quiet, at least for the next 48 hours, because by law, today is Thursday, and by midnight of today, crossing to Friday, there will not be any sort of campaigning or soliciting for votes. Our attention will now be on INEC and security agencies on how they will carry out the exercise. On one hand, there are concerns by the civil society organization about the use of the bimodal accreditation device that will be deployed by INEC. There are a few issues that have been raised by the observers who are saying that INEC needs to pay attention to a few issues. Now, for security, police is planning to deploy over 17,000 operatives on the ground, and we can see the presence of some of these police officers who do know that not all of them have been deployed, because according to their plan, they plan to deploy from neighboring states to Ekiti State. More of the deployment will be seen tomorrow, But we saw earlier in that news report preceding this moment how INEC is able to deploy and dispatch some of these materials across the 16 local government areas of the state. And at every point in time, party agents, security operatives, INEC senior officials are monitoring the exercise. Some senior, very senior INEC officials are helping out the INEC REC, who is the INEC REC of Ekiti State. But by and large, we've seen the presence of security operatives. Before you enter into the different border states of Ekiti State, you see military presence. In fact, I saw earlier that some military officers were monitoring and also manning some specific areas when a political party was holding its final rally. It gives you an understanding that it does look like a lot of attention will be paid to this very election. This election might be a very important one. One reason being that it is the second election, the passage of the Electoral Act 2022, and a lot of the input made into the law will be put to test. And we're waiting, of course, to see how that plays out as far as the security and INEC is concerned. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thank you, Shell, and to the team on the ground who've truly given us updates as we go along. Do stick with Channels Television. We'll have full coverage of the elections on Saturday. In the meantime, the senator representing Ogun Central in the Red Chamber and a former governor of the state, Ibikule Amosun, has asked his supporters and Nigerians to remain united and steadfast in the face of the current challenges facing the country. He made the appeal in Abeokuta, the state capital, at a rally in his honor, after his participation in the APC presidential primary as an aspirant. He's also asked people in the state to back the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, in 2023.
It's nothing short of a heroic welcome of some sort for the former governor of Ogun State, Senator Ibikule Amosun, as he returns to the state after the All Progressives Congress presidential primary, where he was an aspirant. The crowd at the Ake Palace ground in the state capital includes supporters, friends and associates from the 20 local government areas of the state, where Senator Amosun appreciates the people and highlights the journey of his campaign as he calls for support for the APC flag bearer, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
My wanting to be president of Nigeria is just 20%. And that 80% of it is that I want the presidency to come to the southwest. And lo and behold, Almighty God has answered that prayer. And ultimately, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is our flag bearer, will be the president of this great nation. Amen. What you are doing for me, please do it for our flag bearer. Pray for APC. Support APC. Let us all campaign round, because this is the only country that we have. We do not have any other country.
Senator Amosun says he is optimistic of a better Nigeria despite the current socio-economic and political challenges facing the country.
We need the collaboration, the support of all Nigerians. So when you do your bit, I do my bit. That is the way Nigeria will be big. That is the way Nigeria will be great. That is the way Nigeria will survive. I know there are challenges. Security challenges, plenty. People who leave school, no jobs. Those are the challenges. But all these challenges, just like what I said, they are not insurmountable. We will overcome all of these challenges.
The event, which started with a brief visit to the Alake and paramount ruler of Egbaland, Oba Aremu Gbadebo, rounds up with a tour of major streets in the state capital on a motorcade as he acknowledges cheers from residents and his supporters.
In part two, after the break, the president urges more deployment of technology by the Nigeria police as it challenges the force to prioritize professionalism and the discharge of its duties. That's in a moment. So join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar picks Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as his running mate in the 2023 general elections. Preparations in top gear for Saturday's governorship election in Ekiti State. INEC distributes sensitive materials to the 16 local government areas of the state. circumvent the electoral process and be dealt with according to law. Chief of Defense Staff warns politicians ahead of the 2023 general elections. And leaders of France, Germany and Italy visit Ukraine's capital for talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky. As Nigeria prepares for the 2023 elections, the United States is hoping there will be a greater focus on debates as part of the process. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television, U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland, says she hopes candidates will engage more on the issues the Nigerians care about. Ms. Nuland, who paid a one-day visit to the country, says the U.S. is also keeping a watch on balancing and the rhetoric of candidates as they pick their running mates.
We will do what we usually do. We will support INEC for its implementation of these elections, and we are very interested in some of the technological improvements that have been put in place and trying to ensure that those allow for free suffrage. But what we really want is for there to be good debate on the issues. Nigeria is on the cusp of even more great things, the green revolution, economic empowerment, all of these things. Some, attacking of corruption needs to be part of the platform. So we want to see a great debate. We want to see a clean and peaceful election, and we want to see lots of participation. Well, again, as you said, candidates are being chosen. Their vice presidential candidates are being chosen. We're watching this attention to balance. We're watching this attention to being able to appeal to the needs of all Nigerians. That's really important. And also the way the candidates speak about national unity, about religious freedom, about security. These will be important as we go forward.
You can watch the full interview, the exclusive interview with our correspondent Malpo Ogun Yusuf on hard copy. It airs tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. We're staying with elections. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, is warning that any attempt to circumvent the process in the 2023 general elections will be dealt with according to the law. He's also urging persons vying for political offices to abide by the rules of the game and maintain decorum. General Irabor was addressing journalists in Abuja at the bi-weekly media briefing of the Defense Media Operations.
This is the first time the Chief of Defense Staff will be using the platform of the Defense Media Operations to brief journalists since he assumed office.
All I can say for now is that for every one of you,
the aim of the media briefing is to provide an update on the operations of troops, especially as the country counts down to the 2023 elections.
For anyone who is looking forward to be elected, he must do it within the ambit of the provisions of the law, because we will not in any way stand aside and see those who perpetrate violence all because they are looking for political offices, appointive offices. Going forward, Nigeria must be peaceful.
Beyond the elections, the Chief of Defense Staff takes his time to explain some of the operational limitations of troops fighting insurgency and banditry, as he admits the prevailing security concerns remains a major challenge.
Shared timely is what is necessary and required to be able to make impact. Where such information is not received at the appropriate time, then of course, what can you do? Only for us to perhaps be perhaps crying and wailing over incidents that ought to have been prevented. Our desire, in terms of our operational engagement, our desire is to have every form of incident that will lead to violence and bloodshed to be prevented.
Presenting the scorecard of the military in the last 2 weeks, the Director, Defense Media Operations, highlights the successes of troops in tackling the nation's security challenges.
AK-47 rifles, 1 AK-74, 2 PKM squad machine gun, 9 rounds of 85mm shoulder-fired RPG bombs, 16 M16 fragmentation jackets, 10 50mm mortar bombs, 200 rounds of 7.62 ammunition, 18 boxes of different types of ammunition, 1 rocket-propelled grenade, more than 7 tubes, and others.
Although the defense chief is optimistic that the nation's security situation is improving, he advocates for an inclusive approach in tackling the nation's security challenges.
Let's head on now to the nation's capital, Abuja, to our studios, of course, where Malpe Ogun Yusuf is standing by. Hi, Malpe.
Hello, Amarachi. Well, security is truly at the forefront as President Muhammadu Buhari has charged the Nigeria Police Force to place a premium on professionalism in carrying out their duties. The president promises to further invest in infrastructure to reposition the force for greater efficiency. He was speaking during the graduation of police cadet at the Nigeria Police Academy in Kano.
The graduating cadets will be taking their place in Nigerian police force that is destined and determined to take its uttermost among the most efficient security organizations. This is apparent in the excellent and fruitful contributions of the Nigerian police force in the foreign peacekeeping missions. Today's landscape extends well beyond the land, sea, air, into the vast territories of cyberspace. The internet and new digital technologies have provided a platform for the emerging offenses to reach unprecedented levels. Many of the enemies you will confront will be permanently faceless or concealed, leveraging technology to wage warfare that has the potential to be even more destructive than anything the world has ever known. We must develop a policy on cyber warfare that has its strategic focus on prevention of cyber attacks against critical national infrastructure, minimizing national vulnerability to cyber attacks, and minimizing damage and recovery time from cyber attacks. On our part, as a government, we will do everything possible to address the challenges facing the academy by calling on the intervention of the relevant agencies and first starters to facilitate the developmental plans embarked by the academy. Adequate budgetary provisions will be made to accommodate capital and recurrent expenditure as the welfare of staff and cadets remains among our government priorities.
Well, that was President Muhammadu Buhari speaking at the graduation of police cadet in Kano. Well, in the northeast of the country, a suspected bomb manufacturer and a member of the Boko Haram linked to the 3 bomb explosions recorded in Taraba State this year has been arrested by the State Police Command. The suspect was apprehended at Tela community of Gasol local government area of the state with chemicals used in the production of live ammunition and ready-made improvised explosives awaiting usage. The said Boko Haram member and kidnapping syndicate is alleged to have been terrorizing Niger, Kogi and Taraba states for more than a year. Back here in Abuja, the House of Representatives has mandated its Committee on Army to invite the Chief of Army Staff to provide details of the total number of personnel trained and recruited by the Nigerian Army in the last 5 years. The resolution was reached after the consideration of a motion by Honorable Sergius Ogun on the need to ascertain the current numerical strength of the Nigerian Army. Meanwhile, the House is also urging the police to fish out the perpetrators of the Owo massacre and bring them to book. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
The Green Chamber observes a minute of silence in honor of the victims of the Owo massacre in Ondo State, following a motion by a lawmaker from that state.
With the souls of the Owo carnage victims, rest in peace.
One of the resolutions is for the police to ensure that the perpetrators are apprehended and brought to book. That motion paves the way for other matters of security, which has become a regular topic for debate in both chambers of the National Assembly.
On the 8th
June 2022, the people of Boshkri were attacked at night, and about 3 people were killed. Houses were burned. Even as I'm talking now, many of them are sleeping in primary schools and in churches.
Like my constituency had a very devastating experience 2 days ago, where students of Government Science School Kuru, one was shot dead, 2 still in the hospital. Yesterday, a priest in my constituency again was kidnapped and in captivity.
Concerns that the Nigerian army and the armed forces have been overstretched by the fight against insecurity in some parts of the country, lawmakers passed a resolution to ascertain the actual number of personnel in the army.
The House is aware that in a bid to boost its military strength, the Nigerian army has, in the past 5 years or more, conducted a series of recruitment exercises for persons desiring to be enlisted into the Nigerian army. The House resolves to 1. Invite the Chief of Army Staff to appear before the Committee on Army and provide details of the total number of personnel trained and recruited by the Nigerian Army in the past 5 years.
Next, the House considers a motion on the need to secure the release of the kidnapped Abuja-Kaduna train passengers and other Nigerians held captive in the country.
Concerned that if nothing is done urgently to secure the freedom of these victims in captivity across the country, citizens may lose hope in government. Urge the federal government to offer assistance to family members of the kidnapped persons.
The House further mandated committees on Army, National Security and Intelligence to ensure compliance. Terry Ekumi, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the National Pension Commission announces the commencement of digital verification for retirees and prospective retirees. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. African countries must continue to explore measures to combat climate change while addressing food insecurity and poverty across the continent. Well, that's the view of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, at the 8th Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers of the Pan-African Agency of the Great Green Wall hosted in Nigeria. Professor Osinbajo says for Africa, mitigation and adaptation methods for climate change must consider the fact that Africa is confronted with challenges. Our State House correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
The African Union-led Great Green Wall project has evolved from just planting a wall of trees stretching across the entire Sahel to promoting water harvesting techniques, greenery protection, and improving indigenous land use.
International standards.
Green air conditioning products are very, very efficient, and all our clients have reported good delivery of services, and they're enjoying the service the product provides.
For the company, which boasts itself as the leader in the air conditioner manufacturing industry globally, this is the first phase of the training, which it promises has come to stay.
We are smart, we are handsome, we are cool.
Business News next. Here's Anne Wawudu.
Thank you, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. We begin with the National Pension Commission, PENCOM, saying the verification and enrollment exercise for retirees and prospective retirees of federal government treasury-funded ministries, departments and agencies will commence on Monday, June the 20th. The Commission made this known today in a statement, adding that the exercise targets federal government employees set to retire in 2022 and those who missed the enrollment in the previous years. The Commission asks retirees and prospective retirees to visit their pension fund administrators to undergo the data recapture as the exercise is scheduled to end on August the 31st. The Director General of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, has been speaking on the benefits of the passage of its act to the nation's economy. Speaking with reporters in Abuja, Professor Mustafa says the new legislation will back the agency in its research for agri-biotechnology, which aims at boosting agri-production, job creation, and foreign exchange earnings for the government. The equities market has continued its negative movement in today's trading session, meaning the color is red again today, triggered largely by losses in Airtel Africa. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it seems the bears not ready to lose its grip on the local bourse, with another 5 basis points decline from yesterday's close. That move wiped off about 196 billion naira from the market cap, with 211 million units of stocks traded in 4,750 deals valued at 2.36 billion naira. Well, this time it looks like MTN Nigeria and Airtel Africa are taking turns in dragging the market down. Today, Airtel's share price is down about 1.19%, putting pressure on the market. Well, the banking sector also added to this, with 4 out of the 5 figures in the red. The oil and gas counter also got hit today, with Oando and Cornell both down, making Cornell the top losers counter. Lincolnshire led 12 advances to close at 56 kobo, making another negative market breadth in the market from yesterday. Well, this week has turned out to be quite bearish. Not one positive close yet. Maybe tomorrow might just do it. Fingers crossed. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
And that's Business News tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Anne. And in the wake of growing insecurity in the country, the chairman of the Southern Governors Forum and Governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, has again brought to the fore the need for decentralization of the police. But the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, disagrees with that position. Sharing their views alongside other speakers at a meeting of the body of Attorneys General of the 36 states of the Federation in Lagos, they both put up strong positions to buttress their arguments. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Sheyele, reports.
We have a joke in the newsroom too.
The body of Attorneys General of States of the Federation is meeting for the first time after it was formed earlier this year. Present here are representatives of key stakeholders, from the executive to the bench, the bar, and others. The Attorney General of Lagos, who is the interim chairman of the body, says it was established as part of efforts to form a formidable force to take positions on legal issues, as well as to review legal actions taken on behalf of all states.
The forum has a number of cases before different courts, and these cases directly impact on the finances and the status of our states.
The president of the bar, Olumide Apata, in his remarks, drew the attention of the body to the recent report of the abduction of 4 members of staff of the National Industrial Court in Imo State.
As a result of this unfortunate incident, the president of the NIC has ordered the indefinite closure of the Owerri division of the court, and this is sure to have severe consequences for the people of the state in terms of access to justice, and will also affect the revenue of lawyers. We therefore ask the question, where does the AG of Imo State stand on this matter?
The keynote speaker, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who is obviously still unhappy with the recent killing of some of his citizens, insists that the mass killings, kidnappings, and other security failures across the country show that a central police command is ineffective to keep Nigerians safe, an assertion the Lagos State Governor agrees with.
The unbridled quest of federal government to acquire more power, that despite this over-centralization of authority, must be curtailed. There must be an end to it. All we are saying, we want state police, that's all, no more.
In his response, the Attorney General of the Federation insists that governors cannot continue to agitate for restructuring the state police when they are responsible for the compromise and mismanagement of the current system.
a state governor who has at his disposal a state police in our current situation, what will eventually happen to the local government chairman that challenges the governor? If indeed our attitudinal change requirements are not addressed.
The meeting also touched on other critical legal issues bordering on value-added tax, the Paris Club reforms, among others. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Ola Stefanishyna says warm scenes during the visit by leaders of 4 EU nations earlier today represents a historic breakthrough, but warns that Western countries have shown a gap between promises and action so far. The leaders of France, Germany, Italy and Romania were in Ukraine today for a visit with President Volodymyr Zelensky, following which they publicly backed Ukraine's immediate candidate status to join the EU following the Russian invasion and promising their support for Ukraine. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The leaders of France, Germany and Italy have arrived in Ukraine's capital for talks with Ukraine's president. Emmanuel Macron, Olaf Scholz and Mario Draghi took the night train from Poland. They started with a visit to the city of Irpin, where Emmanuel Macron said massacres and war crimes had been committed. They then spoke to Volodymyr Zelensky, who has long pleaded for more weapons and support from the EU, the first such meeting the president has had since Russia unleashed its invasion. The trip has taken weeks to organise, with the 3 men looking to overcome criticism within Ukraine over their response to the war. The symbolic visit comes a day before the European Commission makes a recommendation on Ukraine's status as an EU candidate, something the biggest European nations have been lukewarm about. Brazilian police say a suspect has confessed to burying the bodies of missing British journalist Dom Phillips and indigenous expert Bruno Pereira. Protesters marched in Manaus to demand justice and mount pressure on Brazil's government to find answers. Now police say a man called Amarildo da Costa de Oliveira took investigators to a site where human remains were dug up. Mr. Phillips and Mr. Pereira disappeared in a remote part of the Amazon rainforest on the 5th of June. Burkina Faso's leader has vowed to hit back at attackers who carried out a massacre in Burkina Faso's northern Seno province last weekend, killing over 100 people.
Soyez forts, je sais que nous avons perdu des collègues.
Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Damiba vowed to hit back at the perpetrators of the attack that reportedly claimed over 100 lives last weekend. His comments came on a visit to Dori, the capital of the northern Seno province where the attack occurred. The army said unidentified assailants first attacked a military police post in Seitenga. Military commanders from Japan, the United States and 16 other countries have met near Tokyo on the final day of the Pacific Amphibious Leaders Symposium. Washington hopes the event will help forge cooperation between nations that can help it contain China. US forces in Japan displayed a high-mobility rocket system similar to the ones the Pentagon is supplying to the Ukraine. The participants included military commanders from Southeast Asia, such as Thailand and Indonesia, as well as Britain and France. The 4-day event comes as Tokyo looks to take on a bigger regional security role to counter China, North Korea and Russia. 3 wildfires in Spain's Catalonia region have reduced around 1,100 hectares of woods and bushes to ash as a heat wave brought temperatures close to record highs in the area. The blazes started near the towns of Baldomar, Corbera d'Ebre and Castella Rabira. Hundreds of firemen were on the ground fighting the flames with 100 trucks and a dozen aircraft. Scorching heat has hit Spain since late last week, the earliest summer heat wave since 1981. The US actor Kevin Spacey has been given unconditional bail after appearing in a London court on 4 charges of sexually assaulting 3 men.
Come this way, stop it. Obstruction, please. Move. Move to the side. Move to the side.
Ahead of the hearing, the Hollywood star was steered by his legal team and 2 police officers through a mass of photographers and camera crews towards the court entrance. The 62-year-old is facing a 5th charge of sexual activity without consent. Mr. Spacey's next appearance will be in July for a plea hearing and trial preparation hearing. His lawyer says he strenuously denies any and all criminality in the case. And finally, the Chilean swimmer Barbara Hernandez has announced she has received a Guinness World Record after swimming between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans in Cabo de Hornos. Hernandez broke the Guinness record by swimming 1 nautical mile in 15 minutes and 3 seconds in February. During her feat, Hernandez was monitored closely by the Chilean Navy. The World Open Water Swimming Association also awarded her for being the first person to ever swim 3 nautical miles between both oceans. The 36-year-old psychologist and swimmer, who is also known as the Ice Mermaid, said she wants all Chileans to feel as if her achievement was theirs. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The Egyptian Football Association, that's the Egyptian FA, have sacked Ihab Galal as the head coach after just 3 games in charge of the national team. The 54-year-old replaced Carlos Queiroz in April after the Pharaohs failed to qualify for the FIFA World Cup in Qatar later this year. But it was dismissed after a shock 2-0 defeat to Ethiopia in the 2023 AFCON qualifier and a 4-1 friendly loss to South Korea. The EFA board member Hazem Imam says they will look to appoint a foreign coach. Premier League reigning champions Manchester City FC will begin the defence of their title at West Ham United, while runners-up Liverpool travel to Fulham on the opening weekend of the season. The 2022-23 fixtures released today give new Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag an opening test at Old Trafford against Brighton and Hove Albion. Nottingham Forest's first match in the top flight for 23 years will be at Newcastle. Frank Lampard, whose Everton side narrowly escaped relegation, comes up against his former employers Chelsea for the 2nd season running. Arsenal have the honour of kicking off their new campaign with a short trip to Crystal Palace on August the 5th. And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balu.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar today picked Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as his running mate in the 2023 general elections. He said he wanted a vice president who would be a president in waiting. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.